We have an update right now on a disturbing story out of California, where Los Angeles police have identified badly decomposed human remains found inside of an impounded Tesla last week. Investigators say the car is registered to singer and songwriter David, who rose to fame with hits on TikTok. He was on tour when that body was found.
This Celeste and David case just twisted from disturbing to downright chilling. The feds finally stitched together a full timeline of their connection, and on paper, it makes David look reckless and sloppy with every move he made around Celeste. But just when everyone thought the story was locked in, his own brother Caleb slid in with a shocking twist, claiming the government's so-called airtight timeline might not even be real. The way investigators laid it out, it looks like a story ripped straight from a thriller. Their timeline ties David to Celeste with detail after detail that feels impossible to explain away. Let's break it down. It all starts late 2021, early 2022. According to records, David and Celeste first crossed paths online through Fortnite. He was in his late teens, while she was still a kid just hitting middle school age, and that alone had agents raising every red flag they could find. Then comes March 28, 2022, when David drops a track called Decide. And here's the kicker. Lyrics inside that song talk about save your tears and 7 years. Fans and critics alike took that as a sinister clue, pointing to Celeste's age and the possibility he was literally counting down until she turned legal. Creepy doesn't even begin to cover it. Fast forward to September 7th, 2022, Celeste's actual birthday. On that exact same day, David releases a love-themed track titled Romantic. Now, plenty of artists drop music tied to personal milestones, but investigators said the timing here was way too suspicious. It didn't feel like coincidence, it felt deliberate. By October, private Discord chats started leaking. Screens show David literally asking, "Is Celeste in here?" And she answered back. That digital paper trail made the whole situation look even messier. Then in 2023, the spiral got worse. A Twitch stream surfaces showing David on camera with Celeste joking around about wild, controversial stuff. But the second he realized people might catch on, he panicked and told her to delete the VOD. That single moment had investigators glued to the screen, replaying it as potential evidence of him hiding his tracks.
I media trained you. That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
Really good.
Okay,
It's been a good one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh my! Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything goes.
Finally, February 2024. The whole thing explodes when Celeste's mom reports her missing for the very first time. Around that same moment, David's own comment section on social media is flooded with people accusing him directly, some even writing things like, "LAPD's gonna catch you for messing with a 13-year-old. It was like the internet knew the storm was coming before the official case even blew up. That same month, more photos of David and Celeste started surfacing, and the pattern was impossible to ignore. Every time she supposedly disappeared, there was fresh proof showing she was still orbiting around him. Spring 2024, she vanishes again. Then just as suddenly she reappears, only to disappear once more by June. By August, she's spotted backstage at one of David's shows. And the internet wasn't blind. Discord users were literally dropping comments like, "Post the one with the missing girl Celeste," as if fans themselves were clocking what investigators hadn't yet pieced together. But then things took a horrifying turn. September 2025, a body turns up dismembered, stuffed inside the trunk of a Tesla, registered directly to David. The shockwaves from that discovery were instant and brutal. No wonder the feds lined up their timeline like it was the final nail in his coffin. From there, everything unraveled in rapid fire. Within days, police raided his manager's house, digging for more evidence. His label cut ties without hesitation, erasing any trace of association. Meanwhile, David himself started panicking, scrubbing his Reddit posts, locking down his Fortnite stats, and trying to shut off any window into his digital footprint. The whole picture looked airtight, like every single breadcrumb led right back to him. But here's where the entire case flipped upside down. The same timeline the feds are staking everything on. Caleb, David's own brother, claims it's not proof of guilt at all. He says those receipts and those dates are too clean, too convenient, almost like somebody carefully staged them to set his brother up. That claim alone rattled everything, because if true, it would mean David isn't just reckless. He's possibly the victim of a high-level frame job. And the plot only thickened when whispers started spreading that Caleb himself might secretly be working with investigators behind the scenes. Was he protecting his brother, or was he helping the feds build the case? Either way, the drama was spiraling into something bigger than anyone expected. The streets are buzzing with one burning question. Did Caleb really step back, or did he cross the line into full-on cooperation with the feds? Some Reddit threads are flat out accusing him of snitching, even breaking down his own music and pointing out lyrics that seem to connect directly to Celeste's story. If that's true, Caleb wouldn't just be the brother throwing shade. He'd be the brother actively helping law enforcement piece this puzzle together. And let's be real, in hip-hop, the word snitch cuts like a blade. Some fans are calling it the ultimate betrayal, while others argue it's the only form of justice left on the table. But here's what actually lit this fire. Rumors started spreading that Caleb had been quietly cooperating with investigators, allegedly shaken by the growing storm around David. Then the internet detectives went digging. They pulled up Caleb's lyrics and pointed out how certain bars eerily lined up with the timeline of what went down between David and Celeste. Suddenly, fans weren't just side-eyeing David, they were side-eyeing Caleb too. To make things even murkier, a blurry photo started making the rounds online, supposedly showing Caleb backstage with Celeste at one of David's concerts. That single image sent the conspiracy machine into overdrive. People demanded answers. Did Caleb know more than he let on? Did he stay silent to protect family? Or is he now trying to scrub his name clean before investigators drag the whole camp down? For now, there's no official confirmation. The LAPD hasn't gone on record saying Caleb's cooperating, and the silence only makes the whispers louder. Still, a few sources claim he's been working closely with authorities, and once that narrative caught fire, it was too late. The internet ran wild with it. Whether it's real or just clout-chasing headlines, Caleb's name is tangled in this mess now, and it's not going away anytime soon. But here's the real question nobody can ignore. If Caleb really is cooperating, what's his angle? Is this about protecting his own skin before the feds start connecting dots that could incriminate the entire circle? Or is he genuinely trying to expose the truth, even if it means putting his own brother under the bus? Either way, the family bond has been shattered and the stakes just skyrocketed. Don't forget, David's own manager already got his house raided, and the label cut him off without hesitation. The people closest to him are dropping like flies, scrambling to protect themselves. Now with Caleb stepping into the picture as the possible informant brother, it's a toss-up. Did he flip to save himself, or is he deliberately setting David up to bury him once and for all? The thought alone makes this story feel even darker, because here's the twist. If Caleb really is feeding info to investigators, then suddenly those cryptic songs, the eerie voicemails, even the tattoos David showed off in music videos, they might not just be disturbing coincidences anymore. They could end up as the exact evidence prosecutors need to slam this case shut. Every lyric, every symbol, every message could become part of the government's playbook against him. But before we brand Caleb a snitch, we need to look at the chaos fueling this case. The non-stop swirl of false leads, viral posts, and straight-up misinformation that's been poisoning the internet since day one. The wildest example? The pregnancy rumor. Out of nowhere, a post on X racked up more than 2.5 million views, claiming Celeste was pregnant when she died, and that so-called infant remains were discovered near David's home. That single claim was enough to split the internet in half. Some fans swore this proved the relationship had reached an unthinkable level, while others said it turned the whole saga into something far darker than anyone imagined. But here's the hard truth. None of it has ever been verified. No forensic evidence, no official police reports, no medical confirmation, nothing from law enforcement backs that story up. It was pure misinformation, weaponized by clout chasers and desperate fans hungry for answers. Still, once it went viral, it was too late. The damage was already done, and the rumor became part of the legend swirling around David's name. Then came the bombshell narrative about Celeste's aunt, and this one turned the internet upside down. Screenshots popped up showing her posting shoutouts, flashing her new talent badge, and acting like the tragedy had become some sort of content grind. Overnight, people were split. Some called it blatant clout chasing, while others argued she was just coping the only way she knew how. Either way, it had fans side-eyeing the family dynamic heavy, wondering what was really going on behind the scenes. All that noise, false leads, family drama, viral posts just made it harder and harder to separate fact from fiction. On one side, you've got federal investigators quietly stacking up evidence for a homicide case. On the other, you've got online sleuths throwing out wild, unverified theories, half of which collapse under scrutiny. It's a complete circus. But here's the kicker. This chaos might not be random at all. In a digital world where every second counts, flooding the internet with rumors is the fastest way to bury the real evidence. If somebody wanted to cover their tracks or shift the narrative, drowning timelines in lies would be the perfect distraction. That's why the question everyone's whispering is, are these false claims just desperate fans reaching for answers, or are they part of a bigger, coordinated play to cloud the case? And that's where it gets truly unsettling. While the internet keeps chasing fake leads, the creepiest evidence may have been hiding in plain sight the entire time, inside David's own music and interviews. The stuff his fans once thought were just edgy lyrics or cryptic messages now reads like something else entirely, almost like a confession hiding behind a beat. His texts, his bars, his cryptic public comments, they're starting to feel less like coincidence and more like a chilling trail of breadcrumbs leading straight to the truth. Once you start dissecting every lyric, every hidden voicemail, and every emotional breakdown David had on stage, it all stops feeling like art and starts looking like evidence. Fans and investigators alike are now combing through his catalog line by line, and what they're finding is disturbing. Let's rewind to David's background. His parents pulled him out of regular school, homeschooled him, and kept him locked inside a strict, religious, hyper-controlling household. He admitted all of this himself during an interview with Dazed. People who knew him back then say he was already wrestling with dark thoughts as a teen, obsessed with blood, death, and violence, long before video games and isolation gave him more room to spiral. And when his music blew up online, money started pouring in, and his parents finally loosened their grip, that so-called freedom, mixed with his obsession with Celeste, may have been the exact recipe for disaster. Because to many fans, Celeste wasn't just a girlfriend, she was the centerpiece of his twisted, self-made world. Some even believe she became his muse in the darkest way possible. Here's the theory making rounds. Celeste may have been killed sometime between October and January, either right before or right after David wrapped up his last album. And when you actually look at the lyrics, the themes, and his interviews tied to that project, it doesn't sound so far-fetched anymore. In one interview, David chillingly admitted, "That's what I feel for my art. It's beautiful for a time, so my music is only here for a temporary time. Withered is the process of going back to where I came from. I wanted the album to sound like a goodbye, a send-off to the next era, or whatever I'm doing next." That wasn't some fan twisting his words. That was David himself, confirming his mindset during a sit-down with Zach Sang.
This album is my life. Like, Withered is my life. Petals of Thorns and Lost Petals are what I wanted my life to be, and then Withered is my life.
Suddenly, what once sounded like an artist reflecting on his craft now feels like a confession, hiding in plain sight behind a microphone. Looking back now, fans can't stop asking the same chilling question: was David saying goodbye to his career, or was he saying goodbye to Celeste herself? Over and over, he spoke publicly about the invisible string theory and the Korean concept of zong, a deep, unbreakable emotional bond that can keep people tied together even when the relationship turns toxic. David once admitted, "The irony was that the person who taught me this begged, 'Don't leave me,' but in the end, she left anyway. And now that person is gone from his life." For many listeners, it's impossible not to connect that quote directly to Celeste. Then comes the flower symbolism, which took the internet's detective work to another level. His project Withered suddenly transitioned into talks of a deluxe edition titled Japanese Lily. In Japanese culture, the red spider lily isn't just a flower. It's a symbol of death, mourning, and the separation between life and death. It blooms exactly as summer fades into fall, a moment of transition. Was this just a metaphor for artistic growth, or a chilling nod to Celeste's fate? What pushed a lot of people over the edge was the audio evidence scattered throughout his own songs. Celeste's actual voice can be heard in tracks like I Never Needed You and So Long Goodbye. You can hear her voicemails, crying, apologizing, sounding exhausted, even drunk, telling him she misses him. In one track, she says, "You're always the one calling my phone. You have to figure out what's going on with you." It paints the picture of a girl trying desperately to pull away, and a boy who simply refused to let go. Then there's the SoundCloud track Satan's Pursuit, dropped in late 2023. This one is darker still. David raps, "It kills me slowly, day by day. I need to find somewhere to clean my thoughts, but I'm not happy at all. I let Satan pursue me. I still miss you the way it was before I threw my life away." When you put that lyric next to the timeline of Celeste's disappearance, fans say it stops sounding like art and starts feeling like a confession hidden inside a beat. Was David confessing in real time through his music? Fans aren't just replaying his tracks, they're dissecting his live performances too. In April 2025, during the BandLab experience, David completely broke down mid-song while performing Afterlife, sobbing in front of the crowd and unable to finish. Then again that June, he tried to perform it live and had another emotional collapse on stage. People can't decide if it was grief, guilt, or both, but every breakdown left the audience shaken to the core. Stack it all together, the birthday time releases, the flower of death imagery, the invisible string theory, Celeste's actual voice in his tracks, the public meltdowns, and to a lot of fans, it paints a portrait that's far too haunting to be coincidence. They're calling it obsession immortalized in music, and that's what's feeding the darkest theory yet, that David lived with Celeste for months after she vanished, then dumped her body in a Tesla, hoping it would get towed and destroyed before anyone found it. Some even whisper he may have wanted to get caught, because why else would he scatter so many clues inside his own art, his own interviews, and his own performances? But another, even bigger question is lurking just beneath the surface. If David really was spiraling this hard, dropping hints, breaking down on stage, embedding cryptic messages in every song, did the people closest to him know more than they let on? Did his management, his label, or even his inner circle pick up on the red flags and look the other way? Now the spotlight is shifting. As much as people are pointing fingers at David himself, more and more voices online are starting to wonder whether his team, his management, his label, even the handlers who helped build his brand, knew exactly what was happening behind closed doors and stayed silent. And if that's true, how deep does this cover-up really go? Let's start with the name now lighting up every thread. Josh Marshall, David's manager. Federal agents raided his house the moment Celeste's body was identified, and people can't stop asking why. Why would law enforcement hit the manager unless they believed he wasn't just a bystander, but part of the mess himself? Online sleuths have been connecting dots for months, claiming Josh and the label weren't clueless at all. He's already being accused of enabling David's predatory behavior, with fans pointing to whispers that the label had been warned about Celeste being a missing minor back in 2024. If that's true, Josh can't play dumb. This wasn't just some random fan sneaking into shows. This was a reported missing girl showing up backstage with the crew while still underage. And here's what makes it even harder to excuse. Anyone in David's circle could take one look at Celeste and know she was too young. She wasn't old enough to drive, she had to use fake IDs, and yet she was still popping up in concert photos, mingling with adults, and moving in spaces she never should have been allowed into. Those images weren't hidden, they were public. To fans, this isn't just negligence. It looks like willful blindness. The idea that managers, handlers, and label staff had no clue rings hollow when the evidence of her age was right in front of them the whole time. Now, with the feds raiding Josh Marshall's home, people are wondering if the entire machine behind David's rise is about to get exposed. Was Josh protecting his star or protecting himself? So why didn't anyone step in when the red flags were flashing in neon? The theory floating around is simple. They all looked the other way because the money was flowing. And just when you think it can't get any shadier, the details get worse. After the LAPD searched David's rented apartment, reports claim Josh immediately pulled the plug on the lease. Fans didn't see that as routine business. They saw it as a cleanup move, a desperate attempt to erase traces before cops could dig deeper. The label wasn't any slower either. They cut ties almost overnight, like they knew the storm was about to break wide open. To some, that's not damage control. It looks like preparation, as if they'd been bracing for this collapse the whole time. And here's where Caleb's role flips the spotlight again. If his brother really is cooperating, then investigators might not be circling just David anymore. They could be widening the net, pulling in management, label execs, and maybe even family members. Caleb stepping back or feeding info could be less about morality and more about survival, dodging the fallout while Josh and the label scramble to keep their names clean. What fans are realizing now is that David may not have been the only one under suspicion. His entire support system, the people who booked his shows, handled his money, promoted his image, are now being dragged through the mud. And the deeper the case gets, the more people believe this wasn't just one man spiraling into obsession. It was an entire machine built to protect him, shield him, and profit off him until the truth grew too big to bury. And that's where this story leaves us, with more questions than answers and a trail of chaos that refuses to die down. Was David a genius spiraling into self-destruction, leaving breadcrumbs in his music like some twisted farewell? Or was he a predator shielded by managers, labels, and a whole machine built to cash in on his fame? And then there's Caleb, the brother who might be the key to everything. Is he the whistleblower trying to expose the dark truth, or the betrayer flipping on family just to save his own skin? Depending on who you ask, he's either the one pushing justice forward or the ultimate snake in the grass. But here's the real haunting part. If all these lyrics, breakdowns, and cryptic messages were confessions hiding in plain sight, then fans have been singing along to the soundtrack of a tragedy without even realizing it. That's not just creepy, that's chilling, and it leaves a mark on the culture that won't fade anytime soon. The timeline, the cover-ups, the rumors, the family drama, it all paints a picture bigger than one artist's downfall. It exposes how deep the rock can go when money, fame, and silence collide. And maybe that's why people can't look away, because this isn't just David's story anymore. It's a reflection of how easily an entire system can protect one man. Until it can't, one thing's for sure, this saga isn't ending quietly. Every leak, every rumor, every coincidence just pulls us deeper into the rabbit hole. And whether David was guilty, framed, or a mix of both, the truth is still unfolding piece by piece, and it's messier than anyone imagined. So now it's on you. What do you think? Was this the story of a broken star spiraling out of control, or a bigger conspiracy designed to protect him until the cracks finally showed? Drop your thoughts below, because trust me, the world is watching, and this saga is far from over. And if you want the rawest breakdowns, the wildest theories, and the untold stories nobody else is brave enough to cover, make sure you're locked into BarzBuzz, because this is where the truth gets told, no matter how dark it is.